Thank you, thank you. Hello all. Thank you for making the time to attend this talk, and thank you to the International Youth Media Summit for inviting me to hold this talk. My name is Nikola Stokic. I am a tech lead currently at Paradox Interactive, and I've been in game development for, 6 years now. In my past, I used to also work for Ubisoft in Belgrade and for Madhead Games. And what you saw just now was one of several games that I worked on before. So, I want to do a little prelude to this talk and go about how I started. So, I started as a gameplay programmer and was doing that for the best part of 2 years now. Out of other stuff that I was doing, what I found most fulfilling and interesting was coaching, mentoring, and onboarding new people who come to the studio and who join the projects. And this is one of the things that impacted me in pursuing a leadership role and this kind of career. So I moved on to become a lead gameplay programmer, and that gave me an opportunity to work a lot on personal development and people development in collaboration with other more experienced leads and career development specialists. And I had a few insights that I got when I delved into that world, that seniority and experience and impact doesn't necessarily always come from hard skills, from like your tech knowledge, knowledge of the tools, how good you are at using them. There are other soft skills and behaviors that coincide and make you have the impact that you have. And I would like to dedicate this talk then to discussing and talking a bit about some of the group skills and behaviors, and try to give you a picture on how they look in different levels of seniority, just so you can see how that coincides with one's professional development and the impact they have. So, the 3 areas I would like to touch are collaboration, challenging yourself, and having a leadership mindset. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to raise a hand, interrupt. I'll try to answer them immediately. So, let's start with collaboration. It is something that is inevitable working in the industry. You're bound to work with other people and with other teams. And the better the collaboration is between the teams, I need to say this, the more effective the work is that they do. But what goes into collaboration? Again, as I mentioned, you working together in a group are implicitly collaborating with each other. What is important to have in sense of healthy collaboration mindset is to be constructive in your collaboration and to have the ability to do so through means of how you communicate, how you support others, how you connect with others, how you share the information and knowledge that you have. For junior people, people who just started their career, it's not much to ask. What they should be aware and what these people are showing usually is being a good team player. Being just respectful and supporting of their peers and people they work with. It's not much, but it means a lot. And a really important thing that they need to have on their mind is the willingness to share knowledge, share information, and particularly share information. People around you want to help you grow, want to teach you, want to show you. you sharing information and you showing that you know or don't know something helps people be aware that you need some help, and that is okay. It is expected of a junior. The more the person grows and goes more into kind of a mid-level of seniority, they 2 or 3 years of experience, they are more aware of the impact they are making in their collaboration. So it is the ability to communicate and talk in a constructive manner and in all situations, in all levels that are presented to them. This is what builds relationships. And it is also important, the notion of these people being able to build relationships, not only within the team, but with other teams and across the organization they work in. And that is important, as there's not only one team working. Building these relationships helps better collaborate, better share knowledge, better just all in all better work environment. And another thing that these people are really good at is the ability to be inclusive. And not only, of course, the people with who they work with, but it is also being able to include others in their mission and in the task that they are doing. As I said, we are always dependent on each other on work. The more you are able to include others and what your work is, again, sharing information, the fact that you're maybe dependent, that you may need some info or something get done, the better stuff gets, well, done. As you grow, go into more of a senior managerial role, having years of experience, these people start to approach this in a more selfless way. And this is kind of the impact they start to have more on the group around them. They, most of the time, use their collaboration skills to empower others to communicate with each other, to iterate on ideas, to iterate on feedback, to help others develop their tasks, even though they may not be necessarily related to what the person is doing, who is empowering them. They are ones who are proactive in sharing knowledge. But not only that, they are ones who are also willing and proactive to facilitate and foster knowledge sharing across the team and organization and whatnot, knowing that some people know something that is relevant. We may need that information. These people may benefit from this information. Let's organize something, and so on. And these people are more often than not able to resolve any interpersonal conflict that is happening within the team. And yeah, you work with a lot of people, conflicts are bound, and these people are able to steer it in a more constructive way, in a constructive place. So that is in short about collaboration. As I said, you will notice how going into more experience and going into more seniority, the skills and behaviors that these people show start to be more selfless and more focused on others around them. The second topic that I find interesting and useful is the ability to challenge yourself. And this is having this mindset and think about these things helps you get into positions where you can actually learn and where you can actually grow. It is essentially the person being comfortable of getting out of the comfort zone and just learning, and that's how you learn. And you probably heard it in many places. It is important to be ready to learn from experience, and this implies learning from mistakes. Not being bummed by them, they happen, especially when you start up at a new environment. It's how you learn. It's how you grow. And another thing that is also key to these people and to have in this set of abilities is being being able to embrace change. It is important to, again, when you embrace change, it helps you get out of your comfort zone easier. And again, puts you in a situation where you can actually do new stuff and learn new stuff from new people. And of course, then the more you grow, it is about coming up with innovative solutions to problems you and other people around you may be facing. Water break. So this is probably the most that junior people have to think about and work in order to just being able to cope with a new environment and get distressed about having imposter syndrome there. As I mentioned earlier, it is important for these people to realize that mistakes will be made on their side. You're new, you didn't done this stuff. It happens. It is being ready to learn from it and taking any opportunity to learn from those things. The other really important thing, and especially for junior people, is to be open to feedback. And this is also important when giving, but also when receiving feedback, to be professional about it and not take it personal. It is easy to misinterpret feedback, feel it as a personal attack, and you miss the complete message of it being like just someone wanting to show you how stuff should be done so you avoid mistakes. And this is a really good mechanism for growing. Not only being open for feedback, but trying to be proactive to ask for feedback. It is the best way that you will actually grow and get others to teach you as such. The other thing is being persistent. Any skill, and especially in career, it takes time to grow and takes time to learn. And I saw often like junior people come and be impatient of like, oh, when am I gonna become a mid-level? When am I gonna become a senior? And like, you've been here for 3 months. It takes time. And a lot of people, this is not only professional, but in everyday life, through the lack of persistence and just embracing the fact that you need to work, you need to fail and continue failing and continue learning, that you develop skills, and they often give up on anything that they want to achieve and make. And another important thing that these people should have, and that they have, is trying to strive for setting up a high standard in the work they do. Yes, you probably won't be able to do as someone who has 5, 6, 10, 11 years of experience, but you will get the opportunity of wrapping up something, finishing up something, and then returning back, looking for feedback and seeing, could you have done it better? How could have you done it better? And asking for that information. That is, again, how you push yourself that extra mile of figuring out how better to do your job. And this kind of mindset, without having it, it's really difficult developing your tech skills or your general hard skills and knowledge of your craft. So this directly helps improve that. The more people grow, going into more mid-level roles, they start like being open for feedback, pushing yourself for better quality and whatnot. That becomes second nature. It's automatic. You start adding up on that. You're trying to be efficient in the work you do. You try to find means to be more efficient And this is kind of the feedback you start searching for, like understanding better the processes, understanding better the tools, what you're needing. You are proactive in your learning. You're proactive in finding new opportunities and finding those places outside of your comfort zone to actually go and develop and learn new skills that you need. And you, at this point, are experienced enough to suggest improvements. And this is a good thing to do, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing it, especially on these levels, because like, again, there's that part of an imposter syndrome that comes and goes, oh, who am I to make a suggestion? But that's also a learning opportunity. One, maybe your suggestion is really valid, and nobody just thought about it, and that happens more often than you would believe. But the other thing is, if it is a bad suggestion, you will have someone more experienced explain to you why, so you know for the future. And this then moves us to, again, more senior roles, and how these people push themselves onwards. So these people are comfortable taking calculated risks, thinking outside the box. They push themselves getting out of the norm that they're used to work in, and trying to find better ways and better means, not only for their production pipeline, for their line of work, but for people who they work with as well. They often question processes and often find new ways of doing things, propose these new ways, and push forward to implement them. So the way they challenge themselves is like, okay, I know how we do things, let's see how we don't do things and if we can do it better, essentially. Now, moving up to the leadership mindset and having one. This is something I noticed that a lot of people really overlook, and even when we talked in one-on-ones and with developers that I worked in, they were part of my team, people find this superfluous, as you think, okay, I'm not a manager, I'm not a lead, why do I have to have this? And a short answer is that you are a manager and you are a lead of your own work and your own personal development and your own time and your own tasks. And you are, well, again, working and collaborating with others. So how you manage yourself is how much you help others that you work with. So it is essentially tied up to how you affect people you work with. It is being there and having a mindset to make things happen, to get work done, through communication, through assertiveness, through the impact you make, collaboration. And in doing so and having more of these things, you are becoming a more of a role model and more of a positive influence, and generally a person who motivates others around them to become better and to learn and grow. And for junior people, this is the most important thing, I would say, is being inquisitive. It is important to ask questions, especially in a new environment. That is tying up to the thing from the collaboration that you should share. That is the same thing, like how you do this. Do we have this done somewhere? Is this a good way to do these things? Who should I approach for this, etc. You feel free to share your opinions, because it is important. If you see that something is a bad influence for you, you see something is difficult for you, you see that you're doing something that doesn't make sense, it is important to share these things. You are part of a team as everyone else, hence being peers with them. you are able to articulate your ideas with integrity and with authenticity, it is that ability to be concise that helps you communicate better and collaborate better by having this. And what is important, I guess, to keep you motivated is to just be passionate about the work you do. And I believe you all are, hence you wouldn't probably be here if you weren't. And another topic that these people do try to strive is to be resourceful. Like, okay, I don't know something, how do I figure it out? Who do I ask? Who do I poke? Who do I see this information from? This is putting you in that position of challenging yourself and finding answers and learning. The more you get comfortable with the processes, the workflow that you do, the more assertive your communication becomes. Assertiveness is it's always an interesting thing to try to explain, but it is essentially communicating concisely, honestly, respectfully. Simple as that. Be it in one-on-one or in group situations. It is the ability to convey a message without people taking it personally. It is a difficult thing to do, and the more assertive you are, the easier it is to stand for yourself, stand up for yourself, and stand behind the things you think should be done, and ask right questions to see the right way how these things should be done. You and these people, most often, have impactful communication through that matter of being assertive. It's like, okay, I own this feature, I own this part of the process, I own this task. It needs to be done like this, this, and that. And people accept that for that. I had a really interesting experience with a few programmers who came to me with like estimates on some tasks and be like, hey, are you happy with this? And like, are you happy with those estimates? Do you feel comfortable with these estimates? Like, yeah, I'm happy. Like, it's as simple as that. And tying up to that point, these people are able to follow through on their commitments to themselves and to others. And this is important in understanding also what the follow-through part means, because it is not only completing a task, because sometimes, again, more often than not, unforeseen things happen. You get ill, something turned to be more complicated than you thought it would initially, you lack some equipment, someone else who you're dependent. These people are able to follow through in a sense of, hey, we have this issue, we have this red flag, we have this blocker that we cannot deal with, let's find another means on going through to push through our commitment and to honor our commitment we have to, well, again, ourselves and others around us. And it is interesting to observe when these people are around that they usually command the respect of their peers, just through the means on how they approach work, how they approach others around them, and how they tackle their own tasks, and work in general. Then again, moving onwards, and as more people grow and become more senior, they are aware of the fact, and they are essentially role models to all other junior people, mid-level people who are around them. And they are using it to inspire and set good examples and set good habits. And again, motivate those people around them to grow, to teach them. They have not only impactful communication, but impactful communication in critical situations. Something needs a decision now, a deadline approaches, or we have an issue, something got deleted, whatever. These are the people who can come comfortably make a decision and they need to be comfortable in making decisions and keep stuff going, keep stuff being able to happen. Not only for them, for the team, and for people around them. Someone else comes, goes to like, oh, I cannot do this, and we need it done. This person will come and find a means and way to make it work. And this is something that, again, you will notice people looking at them, not only with respect, but they have a certain level of trust to these people, a trust that they will do their job well, that these people are there for them to help out and to help them grow, and they feel a sense of security having them on the team and having them around them. So the reason I also wanted to opt to go through these certain levels of seniority for these skills and just behaviors in general is also trying to put a highlight on what is expected of a certain seniority and what you on a certain seniority should be feeling free to expect from others. Junior people and people who start their professional career, start working, start now, you don't know stuff. And that is okay, and everyone is aware of that. And your sole job is to learn and to be open for learning. And you should be feeling free to ask anyone around you any questions that you need to grow and develop. I had also a lot of juniors come and talk about how, oh, can you poke this person here to help me? Or why don't you poke him yourself? Like, oh, but like that person is a senior and I don't know. You should be able to poke that person way easier than a junior or a mid-level because it's their job, among other things, to teach you, to learn you, and to help you learn and to grow you and coach you. And understanding that senior people have the soft skills, have the awareness and mindset of like, hey, I'm here for others, I'm here to help the whole machinery run, not only my part. And then understanding that it is okay to expect that from them to be there will help you quite a lot. And essentially, I find these skills, attributes, behaviors relevant for personal growth. It is really, really hard making an impact, growing your technical knowledge without even being a decent person to work with, without being aware of these things. And yeah, hopefully it helps you grow into people who can tomorrow be role models, coach others, mentor others, help them grow and help them find the workplace and place around them really comfortable to work in. And that's mostly what I have to share on this topic. Thank you. I left quite a bit. Relevant to, sorry.
Can I ask a question relevant to game development?
Oh, yeah, by all means. So I'm also here to take any questions, be it for this, being for game development in general. Use the opportunity.
I know that a lot of young developers, when they enter into the industry, they whether they go into indie studios or professional long-term studios, they often are met with a sense of shock at the phenomena of crunch time, which is quite a common occurrence in game development, animation, and filmmaking as well. Are there any techniques that development studios can incorporate in order to circumvent crunch time, or if crunch time is inevitable, are there any means that young developers or beginner developers can learn so that they can maintain a steady workflow and good mental health during crunch time?
Right. That's a really, really excellent question. So, ending up in crunch is a consequence of bad planning. One thing that you, as a developer, can ensure that you yourself don't land in that place is being really, really quick and raising flags when you have suspicions whether you can or cannot deliver something. It really depends on studio to studio, but if you're doing this in a professional capacity and you're taking your product seriously, that is in this case a game, you should be agile in the way you work. And incorporating these methodologies leave you a lot of room in being able to cut stuff, being able to scope down stuff. And that is what the employer can do and the game studio can do. It's just, yeah, being open and ready and organizing the production process in such a way that you have room to cut and you have room to scope. Sometimes it is inevitable. Like, you cannot push through a deadline, something needs to happen. And I don't think that crunch necessarily usually goes for a long period. It's usually around the release date when you have some time to stabilize the game and make it, well, not crash and not buggy. And again, as for young developers who join these companies, especially bigger companies that have this ready, talk to your lead. It is important that you communicate the fact that you feel stressed, you feel overwhelmed, you feel that you cannot make something, because that's the truth of it. And it helps the lead and the producer and the project manager and whoever to reorganize the stuff that is being done, to get other people, more people to do and push through it, or to find someone to help you who has more time. So it is really important that you communicate how you feel and don't keep it for yourself. And that's probably the best way that will help you cope with the stress, because more often than not, your lead, your manager will be able to help you cope with it. And I hope that answers your question.
Are there any in moments where crunch is inevitable? In moments that crunch is inevitable, because there's so many factors that come into it, release dates, publishers, and the organization of the team, whether it's new or experienced, and many times it is inevitable. Are there any good, maybe from your experience, any good techniques that a young developer can learn to maintain their mental health in the process?
So, aside from speaking about it with people who are there, it is a really good question. Like, my approach to it is always like just talking about it, raising awareness of the fact that from speaking for myself, I am stressed, or I find it overwhelming and I need some time, or like, it is usually, even in crunch, okay to find a slot to take a day or two off just to cope, so you can actually manage and maintain that. And yeah, even if it is impossible, then try finding a means to take some time off and some vacation, or discuss with your leads and managers of like scoping down your work so you can actually pull it together, so to speak. As you said, when it's inevitable, you're gonna go through it. And yes, you will get stressed depending on how you cope with the situation and how comfortable you feel with it. But then it's the mean of actually taking care of yourself when it's done. And if you cannot wait until then, it is really, really important to say, hey, I need some time off. I cannot do this, I cannot handle this. Because if you're super overwhelmed and super stressed, and your mental health is degrading, there is no amount of crunch that you can do that can be productive. So might as well take some time off in order to be productive and cope with it.
Thank you so much. That's a really, thank you. That really answered it well.
I was very interested, Nikola, in you talked about inclusion, and I'm very curious to know, one, about gender in the video game industry, and two, about age. For instance, is there anyone of my gender and my age working in the video game industry?
Yes. In short, yes.
Yes? Do you know of anyone?
Well, from the top of my head, like we did have, like our former CEO was, a mid-aged woman, and our chief technical officer was also like older woman working on that position. So, and those are like executive positions in the company.
In terms of those that develop the game, my assumption would be that it's predominantly male. Is that a true assumption or not?
No, like in the studio I'm currently working, we almost have a 50-50 split. In the studio I'm working currently, we almost have a 50-50 split. So it does like vary from department to department, depends on who has what interest, but if a person is good at their skill, then they're good at their skill. It doesn't really matter what their gender is. Oh, and also like regarding age, there is all different age groups and all different levels of seniority. It really has no particular rules. I mean, of course, well, probably junior people will be younger, but like even for that, we can have people who wanted to requalify, try something new, learn something new, and come into the industry a bit later, and that's completely fine.
I wanted to ask, how hard is it for video game designers who aren't video game designers yet to give fresh ideas within those companies?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't really catch all of it.
I'm saying, how hard is it for fresh video game designers to get their ideas across?
It shouldn't be difficult, but it is the point of how assertive you are in your communication. And again, for a junior, it may be a bit more, hence the soft skills, difficult to get your idea through in a like concise manner that it makes sense. So the better you get at elaborating your ideas, the easier it becomes. And the best you can do as a designer is, if you cannot get it through, try and getting feedback why. And sometimes even when you go ask for that feedback why, and then the person scratches their head and tries to think about an idea, maybe they realize that it's not that bad of an idea after all to do something.
And then also, so how did COVID impact the video game development as far as drop dates?
Well, it did introduce the concept of working from home, which is interesting and novel thing that some people find nowadays when COVID is a bit past, that it's really convenient and helps you focus and cope and whatnot. But it did impact negatively in a sense of lacking that moment of sitting next to a game designer or an artist or someone you collaborate with, and just being able to be like, hey, about this, or hey, do you know that? Like I myself was used to like just get off my desk and go to a colleague across the office and be like, hey, do you have a minute? Do you know this? And this kind of approaching people and just regular chit chat as background noise that you can catch as like, oh, I noticed they are talking about this and this feature. By the way, I have done something relevant. These things you miss because, okay, you're direct messaging people, this communication may be missed. In my current company, we try to mitigate this through having public channels where, like, if you have a question, related to a topic, you tag a person that you want answered, but you ask the topic in a public channel so others can see that it's being talked about and maybe find it as relevant information for you. So, but yeah, just the physical lack of someone being here and you being aware of what people are doing and where they are, make it a bit difficult. And it is difficult also to brainstorm. It's way easier to have like 5 people, 6 people sit in a room in front of a whiteboard and just think about stuff.
Can you also tell everyone how many people that it takes to develop certain games, such as?
So it varies. Like grand strategy games like Crusader Kings that I'm working currently can be developed like with 80 people, 100 people. Games like Costa Rican Breakpoint that I worked on were developed with, at its peak, about 1,000 people across 9 studios. So it really depends on the scope and the budget and how big the game is.
Leonardo had a question on your opinion of. Okay, it's okay. I think I memorized it, but in your experience with the audience of these video games, are they more receptive to the storyline of the video game or the visual experience, or is it a
I'm
mixture
sorry,
of both?
can you repeat the first part? What is centered?
Are they more receptive to the visual experiences of the video game or the storyline?
The audience.
Yoda.
It- That's the thing, it depends on the genre. For instance, for Crusader Kings in particular, it is predominantly a strategy game, but it differs from others because it has role-playing aspects. So for us, it is always a balance when designing, like, okay, you cannot physically cater to both parts of the audience sometimes because just you don't have the time to do it. So you do make some compromises here and there, but it really depends on what the game is and finding the audience. The audience is vast. So some people enjoy the narrative. You can see people playing games indie games that don't have that fancy of an art style or 3D and whatnot, but have a really decent story and really good story, and they enjoy. One of my favorite games is a 2D pixel art game called To the Moon, for instance, that, okay, it is a really nice and good story, and I love it for the story. And then from the other side, yeah, I love playing games like Assassin's Creed that look fantastic and play differently. So it really depends what you're building and for who you're building.
My last question. Oh, are we done? I'll be quick.
Sold.
It's easy. It's so. It's so easy to be caught up in a lot of the negatives in how development studios and publishing companies are portrayed. But in your experience, was there ever a moment of teamwork and maybe brotherhood where, or it's awful to ask a superlative, but was there ever a favorite moment working with a team that really stuck out to you that you wish that you wish every team could have, or was there just a moment of great teamwork that really stuck out to you?
It's really hard to pinpoint a moment. I think that it is really, as stressful as it is coming close to release, for instance, it is so nice to see the passion from people coming out at those moments because they want their thing to be done and they want it to be good. And just the sheer connection with the product and with the thing they're building, I think it's probably the one thing that I really enjoy being in game development. It's just, yeah, like I spent hundreds of hours in Crusader Kings 3 that I play now, that I work on now and I develop, because I enjoyed the game, I loved the game. And working in development like that, just seeing people wanting to make the game better, because they like it, they play it, they enjoy it. It is something that is invaluable, and I don't think can be related to any other particular industry or product being built as such. Like it is remarkable how, like I remember the first time I done a UI widget in like Wildlands, like okay, around finishes, and like a widget pops up and says like this is the score. And it was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's simple to implement, but it pops up every time around ends and you go like, haha, I made this. So the sentiment of like seeing your own stuff in game, having it there, owning it as like your own thing is just invaluable as a product. Done? Thank you all for your time. Thank you very much.